Right now, you are sitting somewhere safe. You probably have food nearby. Maybe you just ate, and the thought of eating another human being is so far from your mind that it feels almost funny that I'm bringing it up. But here's the thing. That reaction, that instant disgust, is not natural. It is learned, and it is surprisingly recent because for a very long time, humans ate each other regularly across nearly every continent in ways that were not desperate or accidental, but deliberate, cultural, even ceremonial. The question people usually ask is, why did humans ever eat each other? But that's the wrong question. The real question is, why did we stop? Because cannibalism wasn't a sign of monsters or madness. Anthropologists have found evidence of it on every inhabited continent, in Europe, in the Americas, in Asia, in the Pacific Islands. It was not rare. It was not isolated. It was, for most of human history, one of the things humans simply did. So what changed? What happened inside human society, inside the human mind, that turned something so common into something most people cannot even say out loud without flinching? The answer involves evolution, disease, culture, and a psychological shift so deep that it rewired how we see other people entirely. In 1994, archaeologists excavating a cave in Somerset, England, called Gough's Cave, found something strange. Human bones, not buried, not arranged carefully the way you bury someone you care about, cut, scraped, with the same tool marks you find on animal bones that have been processed for meat. The bones were around 14,700 years old, and the evidence was clear. These weren't people who had been killed in war and discarded. They had been deliberately eaten. The skulls had been shaped into cups. And Gough's Cave is not unusual. Similar findings have come from sites in France, Spain, Germany, Croatia. Neanderthals, the closest relatives we ever had, also show evidence of cannibalism going back 100,000 years. In the Americas, a site called Cowboy Wash in Colorado shows evidence from around 1,100 years ago where an entire community was apparently eaten. Researchers found human myoglobin, a protein only found in muscle tissue inside an ancient cooking pot. Someone cooked a human being and ate them from that pot, and across all of this evidence, researchers keep finding the same thing. This was not always desperation. It was not always starvation. It was often purposeful. Anthropologists identify roughly 3 reasons ancient humans ate each other. The first is survival cannibalism. When food runs out and people are dying, some eat the dead to stay alive. This is the version most people imagine, and it is real. But it is the least interesting one. The second is warfare cannibalism. Eating a defeated enemy was, in many cultures, an act of domination. You were not just killing them, you were absorbing them, taking their strength, erasing their existence completely. To some ancient groups, it was the ultimate act of victory. But the third reason is the one that changes how you see this entirely. Ritual cannibalism, eating someone you loved. Multiple cultures practiced mortuary cannibalism, the deliberate eating of deceased family members, not out of hunger, not out of hatred, but out of reverence. The 4 people of Papua New Guinea did this well into the 20th century. When someone died, the community consumed them, not as food, as ceremony, as a way of keeping the person inside the group forever. As a final act of love, the body wasn't discarded, it was taken in. So why did it stop? Part of the answer is cultural. As human societies grew more complex, as laws formed, as religions developed, cannibalism became something that separated civilized from savage. Leaders used it as a marker of identity. You were civilized if you buried your dead. You were barbaric if you ate them. This distinction got written into law, into religion, into stories told to children. But there is a second reason, a biological one, and it is darker than any law. Eating humans is genuinely dangerous, specifically to the brain. The 4 people of Papua New Guinea, the group that practiced mortuary cannibalism, began dying in enormous numbers in the early 20th century from a disease called Kuru. It caused uncontrollable trembling, loss of coordination, and eventually death. It spread almost exclusively through women and children because they were the ones who handled and consumed the brain tissue of the dead during funeral rites. In 2009, researchers studying the 4 discovered something remarkable. Many survivors had a genetic mutation, a variant in the prion protein gene that made them almost completely resistant to Kuru. The people who had been eating humans for generations had evolved resistance to the disease that came from eating humans, which means the practice was so widespread and so sustained that it created evolutionary pressure. It didn't just happen occasionally. It happened consistently enough that natural selection responded to it. Think about what that means. Your body carries ancient genetic memories of things your ancestors did that you will never do. The biology of what we are was shaped, in part, by this. So, here is the full picture. Humans didn't stop eating each other because we suddenly became better people. We stopped for 3 reasons that had almost nothing to do with morality. 1. Our societies grew large enough that you couldn't know everyone anymore. When a group is 30 people, everyone is family. When it's 3,000, the person next to you is a stranger. And strangers become people, not food, when you need them to cooperate with you. 2. Disease made it genuinely deadly. The body itself began punishing the behavior, not with guilt, with neurodegenerative illness that killed the people doing it. 3. Culture rewrote the rules so completely that the disgust you feel right now, that involuntary recoil got baked into the way children are raised, the stories that are told, the laws that are written. For thousands of years, every generation was taught the same thing. This is the line between human and animal. And eventually, the lesson became instinct. The disgust you feel is not biological. It is historical. It is inherited. It is the accumulated weight of thousands of years of culture pressing down on your nervous system and telling you what you are and what you are not. And here is what is quietly strange about all of this. The instinct that eventually replaced cannibalism, the one that made other humans feel untouchable, protected, sacred, is the same instinct that built hospitals. That created laws. That made genocide feel like a crime instead of a strategy. The same cultural shift that made eating people unthinkable also made protecting people feel necessary. 2 sides of the same transformation. One boundary drawn in the deepest part of the human mind and everything that followed from it. You will go through your entire life and never once seriously consider eating another human being. That fact feels so obvious, it barely registers. But it wasn't always obvious. It wasn't always automatic. There was a time, a long time, when the line between human and meal was something that had to be decided, negotiated, and agreed upon by every generation that came before you. The thing you take for granted as the most basic human instinct, the feeling that people are sacred, is one of the most recent things we invented. And somewhere in your DNA, there are traces of the world before that invention existed. If you found this interesting, everything is linked in the description, and the next video gets even stranger.